shift like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because so much intel's coming in, this month and this weekend. I knew was going to be huge, so we can talk
Mm,
about that. I
cool.
thought we could kind of hang on, let's see. Uh, I thought we could kind of connect the dots, is what I felt. Like when you sent me that message about your internet. Let's see,
Right.
because I've noticed some things, and here, let me just tag you on this. Boom, 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 whoop, boom. Oh, there you are. Okay, cool. Yeah, so there's something to just jumping on here and doing this shit. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're live. Let me check YouTube. I don't really care about X because they're totally like X is like a platform you got to pay to play. I've
Oh,
noticed YouTube has, really been like squashing the channel, and uh, unexpectedly, Facebook has been, less oppressive, you know,
right.
over the last few weeks. Okay, here we go. All right. I can't share to groups, or I'm in Facebook jail. Well, partially. Can't share to groups or comment in groups or not even in my own groups, which is crazy.
That's wild.
But people will tune in as they're
Right.
led to. Here,
Right.
one thing I can do is I can share it to
Yeah, let me do that too.
the story. Yeah, if you could share it to this the Solgy group, that
Cool.
that pulls a lot of people in. A lot of people are connected to that page. Yeah, so
Right.
Astrology, 3iAtlas, and Shift Like That with Ty Hudnall.
Yeah, man. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure we have plenty to talk about
Oh, I can.
with all the
The other thing I can do is I've noticed people they put at um followers. Let's see, it's not working. See, it's not letting me do
let's
that either. It won't let me share links. It won't let me do nothing, man. No, it won't let me do it.
mm,
That's wild.
crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
Let's
All right, get rid of
see.
that
I'm
shit.
looking for the pages.
Uh,
Public, that's what we want.
yeah, I
Let's
mean,
see.
we're good.
How do I share
Uh,
it to the page? Let's see here.
so,
Groups. Here we go. I got
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Go to groups.
Mm-hmm.
That'll pull a few people in, but they can always watch a replay. And I'm recording this, so we might get some clips out of it.
All right, we're live on the on Soulogy there.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah. So it's like what I noticed. God, what's today? The 12th. It's only the fucking 12th, man. October's already blown away September, and September was like
Insanity.
total completion. So
Right.
what I noticed was it started, I think, well, I don't know when it started. For me, it started around the 17th or 18th of September, and I told you that privately, that 111 moment, which
Mm-hmm.
was really weird. Um, since then, well, September kind of, um, represented the completion that the number nine reveals, or is defined with, and then we go into October, which is 10 or 1 new beginnings or whatever. So anyway, I can't really remember everything chronologically, but today I woke up and I could not do anything. I couldn't. I don't even know what time I woke up. I think it was about 7. And normally now, what I do is I spend a certain amount of time, because our friend Gregory Jones at infusedlights.com, everybody go see him. He's got a great bookstore there. Everything's like $2 or $3. He's not making any money on it. He's doing great work. If you've seen his stuff, and if you haven't, you should go look at it. It's on Facebook, YouTube, and all the platforms. Um, but so anyway, I usually spend probably a couple of hours putting up 20 25 clips because he's made like 1,500 clips from all the shows and
Right.
even some of the old Soulogy material. And so I couldn't even do that because when I do that, I have to listen to the clips and
Right.
then, push the button, wait for it to upload, wait for them to approve it, and, so on. So I just, I spent most of the day, I would say the last 12 hours, this is embarrassing, but I don't think it is for anyone who's going through the same thing we are, um, sleeping, like
Right.
probably 5 hours of that, in and out, lucid dreams, and very acute awareness in the lucid dreams, not really understanding them at a human level, which I think is part of this leap that we're taking where we don't have to understand, which is, if you really think about it, if we have to understand, it's a, um, it's, we're still attached to the old. Like we're stepping into something that's totally like, totally unfamiliar, obviously to our human, but even to getting to this point in the experience where we don't know or we can't know what comes next because we've never been here before. So I spent part of the day, if I was, if it was 12 hours and 5 or 6 hours was in and out of sleep, the rest was on my back and I'm watching reels. And I was watching them on YouTube, watching them on Facebook, just, doing that thing. Am I attached to the grid? Does it have a hold of me? Does the matrix have a hold of me? And all that stupid shit. But I'm just watching it because I don't care. And what I noticed was there was an inordinate amount of reels and videos, people I don't know, people I do know, that were talking about this shift right now. When I say right now, I'm talking about October. I'm talking about like I don't know, maybe some of the people were talking about the 14th through the 20th, that type of thing. They were talking about 3iAtlas. There's a lot of different variations and narratives and opinions and perspectives on that. But I could see the thread. And uh, and I said this on a show with Alicia Brachet, I think last night. For the first time, I'm seeing the split. People talked about the split. They talked about, I remember like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they were talking about, oh, there's going to be 4 Earths, there's going to be 5 Earths, there's going to be 3 Earths, and then, obviously 2 Earths. And for the first time, I saw it, and I saw that from a soul level, um, some are choosing no judgment, no comparison, no hierarchy, are choosing to go back into or not or to stay in the heavy, well, heavy from the perspective of having lived it like so many of us have, to stay in that space, to go to the depths like we have, dark nights of the soul, and utilize that to expand the soul, therefore the universe. And others are going to quote unquote the new earth, the 5D, whatever. And so I saw it, and I saw it as kind of a toroidal that will end up in the same place. Uh, Now, in light of all that, I had the conversation with you on the last show we did, and I think privately, and and I'm not just saying this to blow smoke up your ass, but and not to throw shade on any other astrologers, but I've obviously 4,000 interviews. I've listened to a lot of astrologers, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying they're right, but I've never been able to really connect the dots with an astrologer. Now with you, I I've been able to do that, and not always fully understanding everything, but um, in the last couple of conversations, 2 3 conversations we've had, I've started to see the connection. And so then I started to see the connection between this 3i Atlas, astrology, cycles, like the Kali Yuga or whatever, and what's going on out there. And so today, as I'm going through these reels, all these different reels are talking about right now. They're talking about the 3iAtlas. They're talking about the astrological formations. They're talking about the time. They're talking about timelessness. October the 14th, one of the videos I saw said that October the 14th is officially standardization day. It's recognized worldwide as the day that everything was brought into the same element of time. But it's also the day that the long Mayan calendar, another calendar, I can't remember the name, and the Gregorian calendar come into the same spot. Right. And so that's just like one example. And there were several other reels I saw. I'm like, how are these people coming up with this stuff? You know, some
Mm.
are remote viewing, 3i Atlas, some are, reflecting on the Mayan calendar, some are reflecting on the fuckery and the bullshit and the movie script. And, and so I like, man, everything's coming to a head. It's coming to a head. So the last part of this, so where I try to connect the dots, I was involved in a session 2 nights ago. And in that session, um, everything kind of came together. And I was with someone else. And so it was, I'm going to tell you straight up, it was Commander Ashtar, Ashtar Command. It wasn't Commander Ashtar, it was Ashtar Command. And as this was happening, I could see, it's only happened to me one other time. I could see this figure in the front, blue eyes, very blue, looking straight at me, and kind of like almost like they were standing in formation of a triangle. So I could see the people abreast of that figure kind of going off in a diagonal. And they were talking about, look, you got a couple of choices. You know, you've got you can stay where you're at. You can go back to your home planet. You can go back to source, or would you like to go back? Well, would you like to go to the nearest parallel timeline of Earth? And this Earth is a place where the distortion and the inversion is not applied. It's almost like you look back at your life and the high points only exist. The rest of it was just bullshit and filler space. So you go into this space where there's no such thing as, say, for forgiveness, judgment, creativity is 100%. Collaboration, co-creation. And I don't remember the details of the last couple of times we talked in terms of the astrological things that you were talking about, but I knew in this new language and this higher than telepathy thing that's happening, I knew that it was connected. Like, so for me, and the last part I'll say is when I talked to Alicia, who's very, very tapped in, um, and there was a lot of things that kind of coincided and aligned. And I think it was the time before the show last night. We did a show like a week before, and ever since then, it just kind of exploded. Uh, and she said she had gotten a visitation, and she'd gotten a visitation, and it was from, oh, I can't remember the specific um, species, so to speak, of galactic, but she'd never, quote unquote, never been on that ship before. And this was very recent. So they took her up and they told her that they told her that the US governments or the governments of the earth had contracted with them. I think it was Arcturian, but I can't remember. Um, maybe Mantis, I don't remember. That to, in other words, they were tapped into our thoughts, to our experience, and they were basically monitoring our progress through the ascension, but that the contract had ended on the 8th and now it was going to a different level. Because she asked them why are you telling me this stuff, and that's what their answer was. I don't know. So all these pieces are, they're, you got the old school astrology, that, how did the Sumerians map out the Dogons, how they map out the stars. And, we got so many different examples, so many different narratives and oral histories of how the star people came down and, showed us how to farm and showed us this and that and the other thing, right? They all seem to be coming together, like the physical and the non-physical. So I don't know specifically. I don't claim to know what the hell's going on, but something's going down. And the last thing that they told our beautiful sister Alicia was November, like November 1st through the 11th or the 12th. You can do it with numerology. You can do it with, like it's a 9 year, 9/11s, 11/9s. The ones and twos have been really big for the last few years. And so I don't really know where all of this lands, but I feel in my bones, and I've just made a personal decision in my own life, which was don't go anywhere. Just stay where you're at for an indefinite period of time. It could be 2 days, it could be 2 weeks, but don't move. So I don't think I'm going to move, you know, beyond the space that I'm actually, living in, because that's up on Wednesday. But I'll stay close in the area, and that's what my soul is telling me. My soul's telling me just sit with it, because something's about to explode. And I don't mean explode like, there's going to be a solar flash, but just like similar to the not choice point, but the choice points of what that transmission was, which was you can, if you want to, which I don't think most of the people that listen to this, you, me, and whoever, I think we're kind of tired. Like we get it. We have reverence for the human experience and human condition that we've had and what it's been able to bring us to in terms of like the depths of the darkness or the dark night of the soul or whatever the case is, or the human condition, and what we're able to alchemize from that. Do you want to stay here in this particular scene of the universal experience, or do you want to go back to your planet, or do you want to go to source, or do you want to go to the next timeline over here to the right or the left, which is the organic earth experience without all the the handicaps and the things that weight us down to the old, well, to the grid of that. Do you want to go try to experience? Do you want to experience what it would be like if there was no interference, if there was no bullshit, fuckery, or distortion, right? And I chose, and the other chose, hey, let's go do this, right? Let's go do this. And I really feel like that's coming on. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. So I figured when I put the title up that we would try to connect the dots. And I do say this, and it's the last thing I'll say, and then please take over. There's something about this 3iAtlas, and I'm not saying it's the end all cure all. It's a metaphoric, energetic, symbolic kind of thing, but there's something to it. It's not just a fucking coincidence, right? And the thing that you had mentioned to me, which didn't leave my mind, was about all the pyramids around the earth, about the cycles of, from a human perspective, catastrophe that have occurred, and that the pyramids are in place, and maybe this device or this being or this entity or this structure, whatever it is, coming to the earth is an attempt to keep the planet stabilized through these processes that we've been through over and over and over, which we know isn't just a collective. or earth-based experience, but an internal experience within ourselves, right? So that's my intro. From
The hell of an intro, Todd.
my deepest humility too, because I can tell you I don't know shift.
Well, that is the energy I threw for our meeting was humility. So absolutely. Um, I want to go back to what you first started with, and of course, this is Soulology, so it is about the soul. And in astrology, the planet of the soul is Pluto.
Mm.
And let's just get a little framework of where we are in our lives, because Pluto represents our generational energy. Like we call the baby boomers, they are the Leo generation. They're dramatic about things and they got big hearts. And um, So each generation, of course, has a certain energy. And from 2008 to 2024, we were in the Capricorn generation. And these kids aren't going to stand for capitalism and the bullshit that we've had to deal with in life, but they're not grown yet. They're will be coming of age later, but that time represented the corporatization of the whole planet and also your psyche. So it's not just controlling the planet, it's controlling what you think and how you feel
So,
about
so,
things.
so, are you associating that with the baby boomers? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying that, of course, each generation is a
Right.
Pluto sign. And for example, after the baby boomers was the Virgo generation, and we started eating healthy. And then the 70s, the Libra generation, and we're all about balance and imbalance in relationships. In the 80s to the early 90s, it was Scorpio, and these kids are extreme, and they've done really amazing things and really dark things too, right?
Both sides of the
95,
spectrum. Yeah.
right? Scorpio. 95 to 2008 was Sagittarius. And like Todd says, don't take this personally, but you guys are the most judgmental generation, and you guys are here to understand and learn how to perceive. But of course, what do we call these? The millennials, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that. And I love them, by the way. And they can be a little wild, though. There's some wildness in there with Satch. And we're now, just this last year, entered into Pluto and Aquarius.
So
And
are you saying that I'm not saying that anything started at a certain time, but that something kind of triggered with the baby boomers, which to me would kind of make sense because
sure,
um, the if I look at the superficial, the the bullshit and the fuckery kind of started in the 19 teens. You had the Federal Reserve, you had income taxes, you
right,
had the First World War, and then it kind of really accelerated, really post World War II, when you started to have the suburbs and you had the corporate ladder and you had the whole,
right.
work and serve your country and work your ass off and then retire and live for 5 years and pay for your own funeral.
Absolutely. And before the Pluto generation, you went back a little farther. That's the Cancer generation, where the wars were and the fear of not having security. And the baby boomers, of course, we call it baby boomers because a lot of babies after World War II, of course, that were born. It was a boom, right? And it's dramatic, it's Leo. And then, of course, you just keep going back in our history, and you kind of take us into America's history, which is tied to the world because of our financial system, is tied to everything, of course. But Pluto represents death and rebirth. And I can tell you that the boomers are 180 degrees from where we are now. 180. Okay. We are exactly opposite the point of the boomer generation.
What does that mean? Does that mean that we've gone
Yes.
from where it was birthed to the other side of it, the other polarity? And can you just elaborate a little bit on when you said Pluto is, what did you say? Pluto is the soul?
Pluto is the soul. Absolutely. And notice that generationally, we have this different thing we came in to deal with. The baby boomers came in to really understand what being honest and understanding what the soul is. And so Pluto is exalted. in the sign of Leo. And that's why, you'll see in the baby boomer generation that no matter if it's good or bad, right or wrong, they gonna do it. Okay, because it's dramatic and they're learning the proper use of their willpower in life, and some of them forced it. Some of them opened their heart and began to really understand that other Leo energy of what love really is and understanding love. So the baby boomers are a great example of people that said, I want to know what the soul is. I want to know how it works in this life, and I want every experience that can teach me about the soul.
Okay, dude, that's deep. That's like that's how I feel. And I technically I'm in that little weird space of 3 or 4 years because some people say the baby boomers is 1940 whatever to 1960 and some
What
say
year?
1960. I'm 1961. So I've seen some, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying some where I'm in it and some where I'm not. But what you just said to me was a soul declaration. Like that is the point. The point is to have these experiences, be it here on earth or in other incarnations or planetary you know templates, right? And the point is to grow the soul. It's like a mutual inspiration and expression to grow the soul, yourself, and the universal simultaneously, which is one of the same thing in that great uh, you know conundrum of the relationship of macro and micro. So I really felt that when you said that. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you. Keep going.
Yeah, I just went back and checked yours, of course, and 61 is Pluto in the sign of Virgo. So you are right after the baby boomers. See, what's different about how they calculate the boomers and how we calculate it in astrology, it's very precise. And Pluto's orbit every 234 years invades Neptune's orbit and comes closer to the sun than Neptune. And we experienced that in like 1991. Okay. And then it came back out. And so it sped up in the period, baby boomers, then the Virgo generation, Libra. It sped up in Scorpio, and it was the shortest period. And then now it's expanding again. And I'm saying that because we all have, that's why we put the numbers in different places because each period has a layover in a way, like Todd was saying. But for the people born in the 60s and late 50s, 58 forward, I believe, is what we'd be looking at. Maybe a little farther. I have to go back and look, so don't quote me on that, please. But
Well, can you explain something to us that aren't as
mhm,
familiar with astrology as you are so we can kind of connect
right.
the dots? So they talked about we came out of what, the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, right? Was it Pisces or what? I may
Sure, we're
be
in the
wrong.
age of Pisces right now and headed toward the end of that, the age of Aquarius, which goes
Okay.
backwards in the zodiac.
So because I can remember reading a book, even going back to the 1980s, talking about, we're coming into the age of Aquarius. The fifth dimension had the age of Aquarius. And uh, but when you talk about Scorpio and you talked about a couple of the other signs, were those were what's the difference between those? I mean, is there like like a
Right,
this part of the clock is Pisces, this is
right,
Aquarius, but
right.
inside of them there are these other phases. Because I'm kind of disconnected there.
So why don't we go through each generation on a soul level? So we started with the baby boomers, right? We started with that they can be a little dramatic, treat me like a queen, treat me like a king. Okay. This is my way or the highway. Fixed fire in the zodiac means
What years?
breathing
What years would
fire.
you say these are? What years?
Okay, so well, what I can do in a moment is I'll bring the years up. So it's going to be what? It's going to be, see, the period is shorter and longer in different places. So I'm going to have to go back and give you the exact, but what we could do right now is we could just look it up.
Here, let me let you share the screen.
Yeah, if you share the screen, I just put the
Let's see. Hang on.
astrological wheel up and show you.
Here we
Okay.
go. Okay, you're good.
There
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, let's just pull up my astrology software. All right. So this is a clock, astrological clock, and I'm going to push the now button. So now we're looking at, and look at the top of this chart, and this is the sign of Pluto, which is the circle with the crescent moon and the cross of spirit. So each of the symbols bring certain energy. And the planet Pluto, today we're looking at the soul, right? We're going to say, okay, Pluto is the how each generation on the soul level is operating. And so if we go back to the baby boomers, let's just bring it back, okay, and follow it to the right of the screen. I know it's moving fast, but we got to go way back to get there, okay? We're in the 70s, we're in the 60s now, we're coming into the 50s. And so when did the baby boomers start? It's going to be right here, October 12th, 1937. Okay, is when
Holy
Pluto
shit.
went
That's
into
right when
Leo.
that was right after my dad was born, right before my mother was born.
Right.
That's wild.
hmm And also, we're getting close to World War II, late 30s, the rise of Germany and all of those things, right? Um, I'm pretty sure we're right there in history, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, so the Pluto in Leo generation are here to grow their soul. They are here to learn how to express honesty about how they actually feel. And when that doesn't happen, there can be drama.
This is the baby boomers.
This is the baby boomers, absolutely.
Would you um okay, so
Let me stop the share for a minute. We'll go back and
yeah,
talk about the next one.
yeah. So would you say that in a sense in this last leg, or I would say last leg in terms of our, the contemporary aspect of it, like our, our parents, our grandparents, whatever,
Right.
children, that this what you're talking about, like these are like a first wave.
Yeah, this cycle is a 248-year cycle. And so Pluto goes through all 12 signs in 248 years.
Okay, so Pluto goes through all 12 signs in 248 years. When did that start? With the baby boomers?
I mean, we can start it from any point and go
Oh, I see. I see.
360.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Mhm.
Okay, I see what you mean. Okay.
And cycle after cycle. And, for example, that number should sound familiar for how old America is right now,
Which is,
248.
oh my God. So next year is 250. Uh,
249.
so America started in 76, 1770, purportedly.
Yep,
Okay.
1776, and 248 years
Oh, I
later,
got
we
you. I got you. Yeah.
we come to the first Pluto cycle of America, and countries rise and fall on these cycles.
So in a way, for somebody who's just a novice, um, Pluto, the furthest thing purportedly from us, okay, is the consciousness or planetary representation of the soul.
And
And
death and rebirth.
that's what I'm saying. So in other words, everything's upside down. The last thing we're
Mhm.
going to look at is Pluto,
Right.
and we're coming to the end, as I guess you would say, the U.S. as a country, which obviously would affect the collective to include the entire Earth in that perspective. So, in other words, the cycle, the gamut has been run,
Yep.
and so another metaphor of completing the circuit, and now we're coming out on the other side, which is the
Yes.
great unknown, the mother's womb, the holy darkness.
The Renaissance, the rebirth. Mexico is going to go through its third one in 2069. So Mexico has gone through this twice, and if you take the number 2069 and subtract 248 and look it up historically, you're going to find there was revolution in Mexico. You subtract another 248, get that date, and you'll also find that year was another revolution.
So, is part of that. I know we're getting off track where you were headed, but this kind of, allows me, and I think people that are listening, to get an idea of what you can offer as far as what's happening now. So, in other words, if I'm understanding you correctly, there there is real. I'll use the term revolution in the air over these next 18 months, 12 months, 15 months, 18 months, whatever. Through the end of 26. Three what?
The next
Months?
3 months.
Well, that's part of what I heard and what I picked up on and what I've experienced in session with the other and with other things I picked up through the shows that, well, I think I talked to you about the guy, the brother from Melbourne, Australia, Gareth Jenkins. I did two shows with him,
I
and now
like Eric. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So he's very tied into the Arcturians. He's got an incredible story. People, you should go listen to the first couple of shows and even the ones after with Katie Kiss. But that the Arcturians, who he's been in contact with for 20 plus years, and his story is very much like the Law of One and the Seth material, where there's multiple people involved in the channeling, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but they said to him, you will not, uh, the world will not be the same place by the end of the year. It'll be a whole different ball game. So now you have this Atlas 3i coming, Atlas 3iAtlas coming. You have
Mhm.
other things that are coming. I'm seeing people that are not necessarily or historically aligned in their intel, but I'm seeing the intel come into play, and it's all over the place. They're all aligning, they're all converging, whether it's that British girl that uses that Sage is her AI, and she asks these questions,
Mhm.
and for some reason she's able to get these answers. Or if you see other people that are doing things, these digital warriors, all coming to the same place. So is there something in your astrological wherewithal that can, not that we can know, but that can tell us in to the best of its ability to, what the hell can happen, will happen between now and the end of the year.
Well, you said that they were telling you that there are certain choices, but the choice that I didn't hear is the choice to embody, to transmute it all. And we're coming to this point where our freedom, Pluto and Aquarius, the freedom of the soul, is what we're all here for. And notice none of the old structures really work for anybody. And Pluto and Aquarius is heralding that community and embodiment is our future. And personally, I've known this has been coming for the last 25 years. And I've known that embodiment is our future. And what our past is idealism. And we've been extremely idealistic about everything and thinking that our beliefs and our opinions matter in the world. And what I usually ask people is, do you give a damn about anybody's opinion? Okay, and if you do, you're probably not watching this because you may have a high opinion of your own opinion and think everybody else thinks highly of your opinion too. But unfortunately, there's no physics that backs up any of that energy. And we've been idealistic in the projection of our beliefs through the last 14 years and the last 30 years has been a big crucible, and all of the religions and all of the control mechanisms where our inner freedom is not the thing that is being liberated. And what the thing that's coming forward is those attachments that Todd talked about, right?
Yeah.
So there's a couple things astrologically that are happening right now, and
Let
and
me
it's
let
a it's a go ahead.
tell no tell us that, but I just want to, help my style to restate or understand. So I totally get the embodiment thing. And to
Right.
me, if I look at those three choices, they I can see where embodiment contains them all.
Right.
So if a person from the level of consciousness they have in the relationship between their soul, let's just say between their soul and their human, the container, chooses to go to stay in the depth of the dualistic polarity that Earth has been these last what 12 or 15,000 years, or they choose to go home to source, or they choose to go to their planetary original planetary uh, place, or they choose to go to this next timeline over parallel experience to experience Earth in its pureness. The bottom line is that it's a self-contained choice on behalf of the soul. Is it can connect to whatever level of efficacy to the human container. And basically, and I love this, and I don't know if I'm right, but um, fuck what everybody thinks. I'm going to go this direction, and this is what my soul and I are choosing, kind of thing.
Damn right.
Is that right? Okay, okay. So
Damn
please
right.
let us know that.
Well, I think if we could sum it up, the choice for people right now is to become aware that thinking they can avoid things and push their feelings away anymore and not learn how to go through things and create harmony through conflict, and to think that we should be validated in being right. We should be validated in the world. But I'm pretty sure I've never been validated by the world.
There's a
So
lot of
I think
ways.
our inner,
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, go ahead.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, there was a lag. Go
Right.
ahead.
Um, yeah, I just think that, there's a deep awareness around avoiding things and thinking if we believe it, it's real. And I think rejection is also a big part of that. That also brings in the fear of death. And, what I've really discovered in myself the last couple of months is that rejection and acceptance is life and death. Because if we reject ourselves, we reject others, are we living?
Right. Right. And I remember
And,
seeing,
yeah, right.
God, there's a lag. I'm not trying to interrupt you. Um, but I remember
You're
seeing,
good. You're good. You're good. You're
yeah, yeah.
good.
I'll pause for a few seconds. But I remember seeing one today. Well, anyway, I won't go into the details of how the intel's coming to us because there is some kind of connection between what we're thinking and what we're receiving, be it on the internet or not, be it, uh, what do they call it? External to skull technology or implanted thoughts or whatever the case is. Fuck all that. What I'm saying is that something about one way I saw it today was that somebody was talking about essentially, and it sounds very basic, but materialism, which is just another way to explain being stuck on the grid. We're not stuck on any grid. This is a choice. It's a choice for us to be stuck on a grid. And it's not necessarily being stuck on a grid because if we make the choice to remain on the grid, and we can do that without any deference to what other people think, so to speak, right? It's just me. It's just me. And this is the direction I want to go. Um, yeah. So thanks for letting me say that. Now, one of the things that's popped into my head over my experience of the last 14 years has been, what is this? Like, what is the difference? I came into this thing with everything that I've already had, which is holy and whole. So, what is the difference? Because the universe does not create experiences. I mean, it may be a school, it may be a playground, however, or a simulation. Nothing's done without purpose. There's always new experiences occurring. And I feel really strongly And I've experienced this with you, brother. I mean, and other people, but I've experienced with you quite a bit. And that is to actually have this continuity, this coherence, this equilibrium, this 0 point soul highway vibration and frequency in a given moment, even though it may not last 10 days or 10 hours or 10 minutes, whatever the case is. You reach this point where you're actually in equilibrium, in that divine neutrality, in that perfect form of creative expression, which is the universal energy, birthing again anew with another that's out, that apparently within the simulation is another being, which truly is another reflection of me, right? But yet we're in this situation where it looks by all accounts that we're two different pieces of real estate in the universe.
Right.
So is this, and I know this is coming out of left field, but is this is this a viable proposition or hypothesis that the benefit of coming into this depth of reality or dimension and alchemizing and transforming and creating through collaboration and co-creation, is this the payoff in this particular? I'm not saying, there's nothing, no right or wrong. I'm just saying, what is your take on that? Is this in the
Right.
astrology? Is it in your mindset? I mean, what are your
Right.
thoughts?
Absolutely. We could kind of perceptualize it in, we could call them three worlds, or and in the first world is what we call the material world, our regular day life, right? And notice for a long time people just want to live in that regular and it be everything. Okay. And I can rely on this, I can touch it, and that's where we're coming from, right? Because we have so much trauma from cataclysm on this planet that we don't have heart coherence. We have to develop it. And that develops a foundation to begin to fractalize ourselves into these other two worlds that I'm going to talk about. So the first world is material. Okay, it's light and matter, right? The second world is our feelings, vibration, and the energy that makes up the rest of the universe, 97%. But the problem with this world is this is where we can become attached to things. This is where we can become fixated on things. And when that happens, we lose ourselves and we can damn near lose our soul in that process. And this is the battleground where the warrior is truly understanding what the necessity of organizing their emotional field is, because the payoff, like Todd was talking about, is the third world, and that is the infinite world that wants to flow through us. Not, it is the thing that happens through us, not the thing that's happening to us. Because when we live in the first world and we attach in the second world, things are happening to us. And in astrology, it can show you all the things that are happening to you from that perspective. It also can show you, if you can transmute and organize your energy, all the things that can flow through
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. You say that as there's 33 people on YouTube, which is kind of cool. Um, so it's like I know having done the show over the years, and everybody tells their story, on the superficial, it's a different story, but there's a basic template. And one of the things that I realized in my own life before I even started doing work online in my, in the first couple of years, was that I was a conduit. I wasn't the conductor. I was the conduit. And so as I listened to people's stories over the years, in that place where, you kind of take in the human condition and experience with that which is coming in innately or is innate, you reach this place of above humility, I am the messenger. I am chosen in that capacity, as we all are. So I'm the conduit. I'm not the conductor. I didn't create this. I didn't create that. But so, yeah, I love the way you said that, like to allow the universal, which is the way I see it. I see it like, people talk about fractalization and we're all God particles, which I believe, and each one of us is unique and equal. And the the present universal jigsaw puzzle is not complete without any piece, and we are not complete without it. But that there is a there is a I don't want to sound hierarchical, but there is a highest potential in every moment, and I feel like that's what you're getting to, is that you know allowing that allowing ourselves to be that conduit. You can talk about presence, you can talk about non-judgment, you can talk about humility, love, wisdom, peace, and so on. But it's not even, to me, it's not even explicable, and it seems to be coming on line more. And for me, who, I do this, I've done this for quote unquote a living or whatever, a purpose or whatever. There's no words for it. It's this vibrational thing which you bring out and others through sound, through music, through tones, right? And correlating the colors and the rays, the harmonics, the contrast. It's a constant thing. I experience it over the last 14 years as I, living out of a suitcase and, as a human going, what the fuck am I doing? What am I going to do next? Like, how do I keep the ball rolling? But there's always been like this, like what is that called? What is it? Powerball Z, or what is it? Dragon Ball Z, where they get those balls
Oh,
of energy
right,
and they
right,
form
right,
them. That's what it feels like to me. That's what it
right.
feels like. It feels like that, like, get out of the way, shut the fuck up, and just do this, right? Like there's this innate sacred geometry and colorization and vibrational field and this et cetera, that what you were just talking about, where we, you know, in other words, care about what other people think, or in some way, some form or fashion, stuck to the actual realm that's been created for the experience, where we over identify with it and we can't let go. And not to be in judgment, but to allow the soul to choose. Do you need to stay in this depth? Do you need to go home to source? Do you need to go home to your planet? Do you need to, or do you, what's best for you? Is it to go into this next lane over here in this parallel existence where there is no distortion or inversion? And the high points of the human experience, a sensory part of the experience, the eating spaghetti, lasagna, or making love, or drinking pure water, or, whatever that is. Like, even that isn't a contest or a comparison. It's, almost like the awareness coming to a place where I know what's good for me. I can hear my soul, and this is what I'm going to do, you know?
You're empowered.
Yeah.
Pluto and Aquarius, embodied, empowered. Community, you know. Equality is something that is not a given in our world. It's something that we have to develop through humility. Respect and disrespect is a given. Seeking fulfillment in each other and being unfucking fulfilled, that's a given. Um, but I think that what we're going through right now with a couple of the transits we're going through, and I want to talk about the fog that we're in. I want to talk about that nobody knows what the hell's going to happen, including me. And in astrology, this is represented by I'm sorry, by Saturn and Pisces, and this started in 2023. And it's a 2.5 year cycle. And this is bringing forward a fog that we're all in. And the fog is confusion, it is rejection, and the fear of what we cannot control is teaching us how to trust ourselves. And like Todd was saying, I know what I want. I know what I'm going to do because I'm going to show up and do me. I'm going to trust myself not trust in the outcome of things, not trust in that someone's going to fulfill me. So we call this the woe of all woes, the sorrow of all sorrows in astrology. Saturn in Pisces. And if you have Saturn in the 12th house of your chart, you also have this. And I'm one of those people. And serve or suffer usually comes up with that conversation. And learning how to let everything flow through us, it takes surrender. It takes surrender to the spirit that there's a plan here and it's organized. And astrology has shown me that over the years that I really shouldn't be able to sit down and know what's happening in your life or your inner workings and how you process things. But the chart is a vibrational blueprint of just that, of the soul's imprint on this reality.
Would you say that in a way, this just came to me, that in a way, because I've always had this thing about anything having power over me, and like even the experience I was telling you that I had with the other person the other night when Ashtar Command came in, the crew came in and I'd never seen it before, and I had to let them know, because I heard the words have to or need to, and I said, "Whoa, don't tell me that. We're collaborators. I'm not going to just follow anything blindly." So I've always kind of felt that way about astrology and kind of struggled with it. You've been able to help me kind of connect the dots, but not fully. But would you say that in a way that astrology is kind of like the spiral? We can be in a loop and astrology can give us the clues of what we're looping, but it also carries the characteristics of being in a spiral where you're seeing the same dynamics, but as you move up the spiral, you're able to um, I don't want to say make better choices, but to choose another path to lift you higher because you're not resisting either astrology or yourself or whatever it may be. You're actually working in collaboration with that blueprint or those cookie crumb trails or that which has been put out there in order for us to be able to kind of navigate things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, timing and time itself is spiral. It's not linear. And since 2020, we have had the end, I call it 2020, the end of linear time. And that was our friend Pluto, the soul, and Saturn together. And this is a restructuring of how we perceive time. And in my practice for the last, before that, before 2020, everybody was really into thinking they could project the outcome to things and that was going to make them feel safe. But how ridiculous does that sound?
Yeah, what's that book that was real big in the 90s? Law of Attraction. I never resonated. I'm not throwing shade on it. I'm just saying
Right.
that,
Right.
the whole concept of I am a fractal of the God or Mother Goddess, there's an element of the unknown that for me, I must engage. Even if I don't know what it is, I must recognize it, acknowledge it, embrace it, accept it, and love it, and then go forth with my dreams, go forth with my, I don't want to say desires, but my intentions, my pure intentions, my integrity to create something that is serving myself in the highest regard and therefore everything and everyone else. So, this law of attraction thing to me just didn't jive, and you just explained it to me. So, thank you for that.
Well, let's bring the real physics in. It's called the law of sympathetic vibration. And that's why we play in the same key in the band, or you sing in the same key when I play the keys. And the whole universe is sympathetic, which I say like. Sympathy is like when Todd just said I have to embrace it, I have to feel it. And empathy is awareness. It's opposite. And that's why I have big issues with people running around saying they're empaths when they have sympathetic pity for other people's problems. So to become empathetic is to become aware of your sympathy and learn how to shape your sympathy and to follow, like a lot of the traditions teach us, that without suffering, we really don't have clarity. and we need to embrace it to really understand it. See, I like the physics. I wasn't into The Secret either, Todd, really, because they told you could do it with your mind and not your
No,
feelings.
no,
But
yeah,
the
yeah.
right,
You just explained something else to me because I've been saying for a long time, not that I'm right, but you've actually explained it better for me. Okay. Which is, yeah, I've been doing this a long time. I've talked to a lot of people, and everybody's very, very, very inclined to identify with their empathic abilities,
right.
not just in a heroic sense, but in a victim sense. Okay. So I came to the understanding within myself, and this is speaking of nobody else, that I could not understand or appreciate or even be in align with my empath if I couldn't do it with my narcissist,
Yes.
because it gives me the contrast to move into the 0 point field, which is the middle of the toroidal field, which is where my sacred sexual energy, creativity, and expression comes out, which is birth, which is newness, which is you're taking everything you have and everything you came into it with, everything you've experienced, and you're marrying them with equilibrium, and then you're planting a new seed, or you're fertilizing the egg, and the golden child energy is born. you know, I get this as I'm talking to you. Um, yeah, I mean, I say this too a lot is, there's a lot of humble pie being served, and that takes a lot of guts to move past the point of embarrassment or shame or anger or any of the other fucked up charismatic children of the ego, or whatever you want to put it, but to actually go into this place where you're okay with yourself and you actually don't care what others think. Uh, this is a huge, uh, a huge uh, watershed moment for the soul in its simulations or its experiences of simulations, because this is a very universal experience. Because if you just look at the genetics or the makeup or composition of the human being species, which is our container, not to be confused with our soul, but it is the whetstone that we kind of hone ourselves on so that we can go to a higher place. It's universally seated. We're not just talking about star power or galactic or elemental or this or that. We're talking about everything. So it really feels like a culmination point, and I find it very fulfilling and encouraging to have a conversation like this and other conversations I've had, but in the moment where you actually bring in uh, the human part of it, the human contribution, the human potential, which is the soul potential, to actually put everything on the table, you know, and you know it feels like it's game on now. Like not even it's not coming. It's here now. And as you're talking about Saturn and Aquarius, and or was it Pisces? Or I don't even know, but like and some of the other things I've heard, like we're really looking at something in the next 2.5 months that literally will be a world changer that will actually um, you know integrate into virtually every human consciousness on the planet? Is that too far fetched?
No, I don't think so. I think that I think if we bring forward in this conversation that we're all sympaths, and if we look at learning to trust that everybody has their own sympathy to transmute into the empathy, and it is global because we're going to hit a point of no return and an ending of a cycle. And this is why it's more intense right now, is because we have the question in the world, are we disciplined in trusting ourselves? Are we disciplined in not giving trust and the expectation to be disappointed and thinking that's trusting other people? instead of sharing what we have inside of ourselves. And many of us, I think, are going through betrayal right now because that's the energy in a lot of ways. And is it betrayal of self or is it betrayal of our projections? Okay.
Which is what? The same thing. I mean, is it, have we been
Right.
betrayed? It's just basically a mirror.
It is.
It's basically a mirror saying
Right.
nobody betrayed you. And this is one of the things about the empath thing that I've noticed over the years, where there is a point of blame on something external, typically somebody else, when the
Yes.
fact is, and I've lived this, and I'm not saying I'm done,
Right.
you know, because to me, it's been the greatest lesson I've ever had. To be able to look into mirror or mirrors and see that those things that have been, you know, put upon me, let's just say from the human perspective, were actually my soul speaking to me saying, hey, wake up. It's all you, you know? Yeah.
I mean, we call Saturn the Lord of karma, the Lord of restriction. It gets a really bad rap, but it is about embodiment and discipline. And Saturn and Neptune are in a dance right now. And 14 years ago, 2012, we entered into a very idealistic period called Neptune and Pisces.
Mm.
And during that period, it's very easy to wave the hand and say, you will believe what I tell you is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I will portray whatever the hell I want to, and you will believe it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like
And
social media. Yeah. If you look for it, you can find it. You can find anything you want to substantiate your existence, your intel, you know,
right.
and my BS. I'll just put it that way. On that note, that you just said, this is perfect synchronicity. The ascending ancient on YouTube. Thank you for your comment and question. Will you please ask Ty, what is this that I am hearing about Saturn entering a new benevolent agency?
Well, I think that we associate malevolence and benevolence with Saturn because it tests us.
Hmm.
Okay. And so if it's kicking your ass, you might think it's malevolent. But if you develop discipline, you get the other, of course. Okay. It's not going to move from one or the other. It has to do with us transforming and becoming embodied in discipline
Hmm.
in our honesty and ourself.
Hmm.
And right now, everybody's spirituality is being tested. That's delusional. So if we believed in things, then we are questioning those beliefs.
Hmm.
If we trusted things and we didn't trust ourselves, we're questioning if we were betrayed. Okay. But what's about to shift is into the sign of Aries. And I call where we're at right now and this is very Sedona, I guess, phase. Okay. Okay. I'm not a big
Plas-
fan of it.
Plasticity is what I call it.
Right.
So when you talk about discipline, oftentimes, even if I look at like, Shaolin monks or, whatever the case is, and I know that's a very extreme example, but I always kind of cringe when I hear discipline. It
Mm,
feels like a bit of sacrifice, a bit of,
mm.
like, anyone that's ever jogged a bit or, exercise and you have to push through, and all that. But to me, when I listen to what you're saying and the way I've kind of come to terms with it, I'm not complete, is the discipline being having, maybe I'm not getting it perfect, but like having faith in my own intuitiveness, in my own being, in my own field. And
Right.
that softens the energetics of my conditioning in the terms of the word energy of discipline. So is it having faith in yourself and your field, your own inner knowing, regardless of anything external, regardless of how close that external person or object or thing may be to you?
Yeah, Saturn's energy works the best when we build balanced structures. And that's really what you've described is putting a structure together where you're actually part of the structure.
mm,
where you're not investing in the structure for some kind of outcome.
mm.
And, that brings me to that Saturn is coming into a sign that's difficult for it, and the restriction of worth and the restriction through anxiety can be a darker side of what we're going through, of what's about to change. But this is what I feel like the next 14 years is going to bring forward for us. It's going to, as Neptune comes into Aries, which has been in most of this year, and it's going to go back into Pisces on the most malefic degree, which we had some crazy stuff happen and assassinations in the US when that happened. And it
Mm.
opened up this energy that we're in right now, 29 degrees Pisces, the last degree of the zodiac. But when it shifts, and it's going to shift in February, February 18th through the 26th or so, when it shifts, all of the delusions that we've been living from, okay, all the people that did not embody themselves and go through their stuff, Todd, are losing their shit right now.
Yeah.
And fear is everywhere. And I'm not telling you did something wrong, because it showed up in my life just like everybody else's, to transmute it, to change it.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. Aries is about what the hell we're going to do in this world, not our
Mm.
idealism.
Yeah.
And the warrior is coming, and harmony through conflict is not an idea. It's a
Mm.
universal principle. It's how
Yeah.
the universe creates.
Yeah.
It's basic physics. So
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to believe that harmony comes through conflict. I am assuring you
It's
that
like yeah, it's like starting a fire in the woods the old school way, like with the flint, you know.
right.
Um, yeah, and so, there if like watching the reels today, even though I evidently arranged for myself to see these things, and we thought we were going to make some music tonight. and
Right.
and it just fit to have this conversation, which, by the way, since we restarted this thing in mid-May, this is the most people we've had live uh since, whatever that is, number of shows. But
Yes.
so I can hear what you're saying. I feel like that from an observation point of view, and even from an experiential point of view, uh, I get what you're saying in regard to this kind of we're being pulled up on the carpet. I say that the universe has given us a big fat yeah, what do you call it, mirror to look at ourselves. We can't look beyond it anymore. It's getting closer and closer in our face. Is there a way? And maybe everyone has to find and forge their own way. But is there a way to see ourselves or get ourselves, or transform, transmute, alchemize with ease and grace through these things that either are deliberately being ignored or denied, or we're just unconscious of? Is there a way to come into a receptivity, so that we can allow this transformation to take place, because it's very intense right now, and I think this is kind of a um, um, uh, almost like a level playing field that everybody can relate to, regardless of what clickbait YouTube videos are watching, or whatever they go out and look for to kind of rationalize their own existence or substantiate themselves. Is there a way to, or is it just an individual thing?
No, there's definitely a way. And it's universal for all of us. And it's really this simple. And I'm going to describe it as heart coherence. Heart coherence is very, very simple. And most of our problems in life begin with not having heart coherence. And what does that mean? That means being concerned about things. That means running away from your problems. It means having anxiety and having depression.
Mm.
And the one thing that creates every bit of that experience is not facing our problems.
Mm.
Because when we don't face our problems, our dialogue or our devil can tell us that we don't have worth and we're not happy.
Mm. Well,
And heart coherence, in my practice, I've stopped teaching anything else until my client can hold heart coherence, because then we have a foundation to build on. And if you're not going to face your problems, you don't want to mess with me.
No, no,
Okay, because I can do nothing for you. I shouldn't exist in your world if you don't want to face your problems. And when you face your problems, you become grounded in what's important to you. And knowing your worth and fulfillment in the moment becomes available right now,
yeah,
not through anything else. And this is the hard part of Saturn because Saturn is unforgiving. It says you could bow or it's not balanced. You can't just decide it's balanced. You have to face what comes. And I think we've all had some really eye-opening things show up in the last month, especially since the last eclipse in September or the first one, the 7th or so. Holy
uh,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, I've had, I've had, I don't know, I could say from the summer, June 1st, but um, I know it's not linear, but I feel like that we're all like in that same, almost like time is a block of content. So maybe it was June, July, August, September, but I can feel what you're saying. I've seen it, I've experienced it, um, and there's this element of, like the way you said it is to me like what you said earlier, which is basically these things, problems um, are just signals or signs or doors kind of to walk through to kind of reduce the amnesia and move into that singularity that oneness is. But somehow or another, we've evolved to a point where we've created this earth space, and we're, like I was saying earlier, the difference I see here than I do in dimension is I'm looking at you, my brother. and we're and we hit these points of 0 point, which are really defined by the creativity and birthing that comes out of it. Spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, and courageous kind of thing. And we've done it in musical sessions. We've done it. We're doing it now, and we see our brothers and sisters doing it. So to go into that space, it seems like I hate to sound restrictive, but it's requiring more and more of that letting go of this materialism or whatever attachments we have. No judgment, but just this. If you're going to go down this path, this is what it takes. And it feels like there's a whole bunch of us that are moving through that space for the first time, you know? Because
Yeah, you're
if you
totally describing, I'm
go ahead,
sorry. Well, you're
no,
totally describing presence and heart coherence and
mm,
being present in the moment and not thinking that you can future the outcome or change the past anymore.
mm, yeah,
And, you know, we restrict ourselves. Nobody else. Nobody
yeah,
restricts us but us.
yeah,
Nobody becomes the dominating father figure Saturn inside and can tell us we can't do it.
yeah,
And what we're going to come into, I believe, is to really understand that we were living from an ideal that capitalism was emotional fulfillment.
yeah. I
And I
saw
really can't find any of that anywhere, you know? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I saw one of the videos I saw today, and that people they do these conspiracy. Yeah, it's just so wild watching all that stuff, on the reels.
Right.
So the guy says, "Did you ever think that suburbs were conspiracy theory?"
Hmm.
And I'm like looking at it, going, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Well, yeah. So prior to that, and this again goes back to what we talked about earlier. Kind of everything kind of like um, exploded after World War II.
Hmm.
Like the element that had been in place for 30 years or so really blew up."
Right.
And so you had industrialization expanding and corporate ladder and all that. So he was saying that, yeah. So when people were living in a rural or semi-rural environment, they have, 2 acres, 200 acres, whatever the case is, they can do whatever they want on their land. They can grow
Right.
what they want. They can, and so they have this thing that's formed, which is the suburbs, where everybody is right next to each other and controlled. They're limited now in what they can do. Now they start looking at each other because they're all on the same scale. And then you have the elements of competition and comparison come in. It was kind of silly, uh, and inane, but it was also, I was like, wow, he's got a point. And so, and this is another part of, I think, what's happening, and I don't feel it's just me. In fact, I know it's not. And that is the way information is coming in. It's coming in as if it's tailored for you in the moment. And we're starting to see it more and more and more, which again kind of serves to fuck what everyone else thinks. This is my trip. It's speaking to me now. I'm going to take it in for what it is in my own field. And one of the things that I've kind of adopted since June 1st is I'm I'm being private now. I've been very public for years, I've been very open and I'm protecting my inner knowing and my inner field um, because I'm kind of like building more confidence in what I know that I am and I feel. I can't explain it, but I know that if I share it out as I have in the past, that can be detrimental because
Mm,
I'm not impervious to external energies that I might have rationalized as coming at me or attacking me. They were
mm.
actually initiated by me. That's really the way it worked. I
Right.
threw it out there and it came back, in an echo of the mirror so that I could get it until I got it, kind of thing. I really feel like that we're moving into this space, and I'm really happy that I didn't know you were going to say that, but like, when you put the three fingers up and I'm like, okay, there's another one. I mean, you're like the 15th or 20th or 25th person where I've seen that go, okay, in their own way, hey, it's going down now. It's happening now, which, on one hand, I want to go, wow, 2026, it's going to be a 10-year or a 1 year, and we're going to start it on January 1 in a 1 year. Then you're going to have the 11th, you're going to have the 10th. Um, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm like going, buckle up, uh, stay on your toes, keep your eyes wide open, and be open to eating this humble pie because it's coming in droves, and I think that probably the best thing that has come out of this conversation to reinforce for myself is the heart coherence because
Oh, right.
that's like we can all, because maybe that's what it is. Maybe what it is we've shut down our own connection to our own heart, so we can drop in our heart whether we're in jail, whether we're in psych ward, whether we're in a breakup, whether we're in this, that, or the other thing, can actually sit there with ourselves and uh and we don't have to tell anybody, we don't have to explain to anybody, we don't have to convince anybody, because the charge that we get out of it, or I would say the reawakening, or the unfolding of the code that was already there, that's been shrouded by this whole human condition, is coming online, which is a lot like how I felt today when you sent me the note, said I don't have good internet, we can't make music, but you want to have a conversation. My whole body, every cell in my body for 3 or 4 hours was just vibrating, and just like, I was like, what the hell? I'm just gonna lay down here. I'm just gonna lay down here, watch reels, listen to music. But when you said that, it kind of came into alignment, and I thought, oh, this is how it works. It's not what you plan. It's not what you expect. It's what is allowed to be in the natural unfoldment of our not just our individual being, but our mutual experience.
Yeah, that really brings me to you and I were talking about Chiron because when you brought in the heart, this brings in the planet Chiron. And what's really special about where we are right now is that in 1977, Chiron was discovered. And short synopsis, Chiron represents the wounded healer. It represents the corpus callosum in the brain that connects your hemispheres together. And a minute ago, Todd was talking about comparing yourself. Well, that's brain coherence and learning how to do your best and embody honesty instead of tell yourself lies that you're not measuring up to stuff is what happens after heart coherence. And we all have to face it, but without heart coherence, we don't face it very well. And Chiron brings forward the lesson of loss and separation. And to the soul, this is the lesson for us to become multidimensional.
Mm,
And Chiron has a 49 to 51 year cycle that we call the consciousness crisis
mm.
in your life. In 2026, Chiron will turn 49 years old. 2027, it'll turn 50. And then 2028, it'll turn 51. From our perspective of when it was discovered, and there's a lot of astrologers that look at the history of when we discover something, it affects the mass consciousness. Like you talked about the Industrial Revolution, that was when Uranus was discovered.
Mm.
When we did the atomic bomb, that was Pluto, little package with a big ass boom. Okay, not to be messed with. Just saying. Okay, right. Um, but Chiron is how we face death, and facing death and not letting the mind use death against us and being ready to die
Mm-mm.
for ourselves right now
Mm. That's how I feel.
is absolutely because you're a warrior, Baba,
That's how I feel.
and right,
That's one thing I noticed. You talked about the 14 years. I know we talked about this privately when we reconnected a couple of months ago, and I was telling you about what happened to me in June 1st, where I started getting these immediate downloads for 2.5 days, and it started with the 14-year cycle. So you mentioned that, and I think about 14 years ago. For it lasted, it lasted like a year and a half, 2 years. um, that was my constant thing. It was I'm prepared to die for this. And I was writing this stuff from the streets because I just had the flip phone and sending them up to the Soulogy group, and people say, "What do you mean by that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just ready to die for the truth." And what is the truth? Well, it's my truth. I know my truth, and the universe knows my truth. And I don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks. And it wasn't like an arrogant, cocky thing. It was just a knowing. And I feel like that was probably a lot of the energy of 2012. So if you go 14 years from 2012, and what you're saying about the the next 2.5 months, you and others, then 2026 would seem to be carrying that same theme, like that same thing, like, okay, I've had enough of this shit. I'm gonna do me, in the sense that it will serve everyone outside of me equally and to my best, you know.
right, absolutely. Our freedom and the planet Uranus, and of course Pluto and Aquarius and the planet Uranus go together, and we're all seeking our inner freedom, and facing death, of course, is part of that. But Uranus is also moving into a new sign, just like Saturn and Neptune are. So we have multiple planets. We have Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus arriving in new signs. And for the last 7 years of our life, we've been going through a period of questioning our own value and
Mm,
feeling devalued in the world, or our monetary system being devalued in the world,
mm, mm,
okay, has come from this. And our monetary system was really set in place at when I'm sorry, Uranus was in the sign of Taurus before, when they passed a lot of the laws around fractional banking. Isn't it interesting? They want to use fractal too, but they call it fractional, not fractal, where they can lend money that they don't have and charge us interest. But anyway, um,
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
So, we are coming into Gemini in Aquarius, which means it's a revolution of clarity of how we've been suffering. And the suffering that we're going to turn into clarity becomes the transformation of embodiment and freedom and facing death and facing all of our problems to be grounded in what we care about so we can face the problems of the world and the material and this idea that we are the material, we are the story. Are
Mm,
we? Come on, are
mm,
we really? If we're going to let it flow through us, we can't be the story
yeah.
anymore.
Can't
We
be the
can't,
conductor. you,
or the
you gotta
guru. We
Yeah,
can't be the guru. We can't be the healer that now everybody follows.
yeah,
Okay?
Yeah.
you know?
It's a big pill to swallow. Considering the last 13 years, going on 14 years, and for some people it was before and some after, but in terms of because it's a legitimate thing, the channelings, downloads, the connections, light language, the things that have come in from our multidimensional aspects, of the non-physical, etherical. It's been a challenge to the ego that's been uh, really, where would we be without it? But you know what? I mean, it's brought us to these heights of identity and identification that have been rooted at the deepest level, but yet this is actually the seed of our alchemy and transformation. So yeah, it feels like there's whether there's going to be a split, and what I was saying at the beginning of the show, that for my own intel or whatever, you know, um, one of these paths, if it's not the only path, and I guess ultimately it is, but like in terms of our evolution and the soul's choices as we evolve individually, uh, a tremendous amount of humility, in the truest sense of the word, being redefined as the truth, reaches higher levels every day, um, and which to me leads to the singularity of oneness and unity, community, co-creation, collaboration, and what you talk about, which is anything that we get that's real is immediately shareable, and that to me speaks to the vibration of it. It's not something you hold on to. It's just something that is immediately reflected back and therefore expanded with every exchange, every share, right?
Right. I think the split is, we could simplify it in a way, and life is either happening to you or it's happening through you,
Mm, mm,
and notice when it's happening through you, the people in your life where it's happening to, they are still working on transmuting that energy, and it's still super functional for
mm,
them to be in that space to question. Personally, I went through some tremendous stuff, and one thing that I learned through it is that I couldn't lose myself
yeah, yeah,
because I already found myself. I
yeah,
didn't I didn't lose it because of a situation changed or my life changed. It just helped me find more depth of myself in it.
yeah, yeah. Wild,
And
man.
the the mirror thing is really interesting because as long as we have a reflection in the mirror, in the dark mirror, right? That's that story. When we find the 0 point, when you look in that mirror, you won't see anything anymore. There will be nothing there.
Mm,
And, you know, you brought up Gareth, and I love how he says, because I'm a big proponent of this, there's a black hole in everything.
mm,
I love it. That's my shit because it is. It's in you, it's in your heart, it's in your awareness. And, it's really the end of projection in everybody's lives, and opening up our awareness. And if we want to build community, we have to ask the one single question, like Todd just said: what do we have to share with each other?
mm,
Not what we have to give or do for. And if we could change giving into sharing, we would realize that receiving is synonymous with sharing. Giving is synonymous with depleting yourself and nothing else.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. So how long are you going to be there? How many more
I'm
days?
probably going to head back Wednesday from Aspen here.
Okay, so I'm going to be on the move. I was just thinking we should do this again. I mean, I'm so up for the music thing, and certainly even to like we did before. Like my brother actually, I told you he's an accomplished musician. He listened to a few minutes of it. He's like, how does he get that sound, man? How does that? And I saw a few comments too, like there's no cutting out, and so I'm totally always up for the music, and like we used to do, and have other people sit in. But I think we should do this again. Maybe when you get back and get settled, maybe next Thursday, next Friday, maybe. It's been, like I said, this has been the most people live that we've had since I kind of rebooted me in mid-May. So there's, energy speaks, and I've enjoyed it, and I really feel like that, it should be something we should continue to explore if you're up for it.
Absolutely. I'd love to bring some of the sounds also to this where we could play what those planets sound like.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And, mhm.
Yeah,
So
that'd
you
be
can
cool.
kind of hear it, because we live in that soup of it. And I think that's something we take for granted that we live in a vibrational world. And these are the vibrations that live in our world. And, I read something recently that talked about the planets didn't really form from chaos. They formed from magnetism that came out of the sun, plasma that
Mm.
attracted. And all the planets are in a fractal alignment. They're all lined up properly. They're not chaotic.
Yeah,
There
it's like do re
is,
mi fa sol la ti do.
right.
I never looked
Absolutely.
into it, but I'm getting that more. I feel
Right.
like in my
Right.
previous lives, I had a good understanding of the music scale and all that stuff. I don't have it so much in this one, but you've reminded me a lot of it. But yeah, I can see that. I can almost see like where the planets are the chakras, so to speak. Yeah,
Yeah,
everything's
each
replicated.
planet definitely resonates in a certain area of our body, its frequency.
Mm, mm,
And I believe Jens Zeiger made the planetary gong series, and in Germany they calculated those orbital frequencies and the harmonics. So we do have some visceral things of the actual vibrations that are below our level of hearing, but not below our level of feeling,
mm.
that are audible through some of the gongs, and we can take it to the keyboard and some of those sounds,
Wow, that'd be
and
cool.
really experience it in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, brother. Uh,
All right.
it's taco time.
Taco time.
Taco time
I'm
in Mexico.
jealous. All right.
Oh my God. I went out of my way yesterday. I had a torta and
Ooh.
jugo, the juice, the green
Oh,
juice
oh
off
yeah.
of a street vendor yesterday morning. Then I had
Mm.
four tacos for dinner. And then about midnight, I decided I want to go have some more. So I ate like eight tacos and a torta yesterday.
Nice.
Well,
Oh, oh,
uh,
that's the
yeah,
life. That's the
I know,
life.
man. It has been nice. It has been nice. I'll see you in a few days, and thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for connecting the dots, and thank you everybody for joining in. And stay tuned for more.